Someone ever told me that looking for a place to rent here in the UK could be this stressful. I wouldn't have believed it until I went through it myself. So since I've been in the UK, I've lived in a few places. I've been through a whole lot. I've gone through a bit of challenges. And now, if I'm looking for another place, I will definitely know exactly what to do. That is what I'm going to share with you. And this is going to help you in your search for a new place to live here in the UK. Either as a newly immigrant or someone who has already been here and needs to move to any other place for any reason. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome to another video. So I love you guys so much, so anytime something comes to mind and I feel like I need to share it, I just go all out and share it because I've been through it and I know how it is. So in this video, I'm going to share with you tips on how to actually rent an accommodation here in UK. So normally if you migrate as a nurse, most of the hospitals are good enough to at least give you a place to live for the first few months as you prepare for the OSCE. And then afterwards, you'd have to look for your own place. That is where the problem starts, and that is where I come in to help share my experience to make your search for accommodation easy and smooth for you. In my own case, my hospital gave me 3 months free accommodation whilst we prepared for the OSCE. Afterwards, I had to look for my own place. So if this is something you're interested in, please stay tuned, share with others, and please don't forget to subscribe. So there are a few ways in which you can actually look for a place to rent here in UK. So you can ask friends and family members or friends from church if they know of anybody who has a vacant room in a house or in a flat, depending on what you are looking for. You can also go onto the website, and that is what most people do. So you go on to Google, and there are a whole lot of websites that you can search for accommodation on. Some are spareroom.com, rightmove.com, openrent.com. The flat I'm currently living in, I got it from openrent.com. You've also got gumtree.com. So there are a whole lot of websites available that you can start searching from. So some of them, you see the pictures, you see how much it costs. They also tell you if bills are included in the rent or not. So based on what you are looking for, you just have to look at all that before you finally decide on what you want to actually go in for. So the first thing to consider is the budget that you have set for accommodation. So depending on what you are looking for, then you can actually set a budget. If you are looking for, you could rent like a room in a shared house. So a shared house will be like, maybe there will be like 4-bedroom house and you would rent a room in that house. So normally you will share like living room. Sometimes if you are lucky, you get your own toilet and bath in the room, but sometimes you might need to share the toilet and bathroom with other tenants. You would also need to share a kitchen. So if you don't mind living in a shared apartment, then you can go in for a room in a shared house. Normally, I would advise that to start off, you can look for a room in a shared house so that at least you can cut on cost, because if you are going to get a whole flat to yourself, mostly those ones don't come with bills. So you would have to think of the rent bills, but then normally the rooms in shared houses sometimes or most of the time come with bills. So once you pay the rent, that's it, you don't have to pay anything again. So as a newly migrant, I would advise that you go in for a room in a shared house. So knowing the type of accommodation you're looking for will help you set your budget, and that would also depend on what you are being paid every month. So if you consider how much you earn and you think you can afford to rent a whole flat to yourself, fine, you can go in for that. I used to live in a room in a shared house. The house was like a 5-bedroom house, and luckily enough, I had a toilet and bath inside the room, so I didn't have to share that, which was very, very good. And so I was only sharing the kitchen and the living room. And actually, no one hardly sat in the living room because almost everybody was in their room most of the time. There was flat screen TV in everybody's room. So you only see somebody once in a while in the kitchen. And the only disadvantage with the room in a shared house, sometimes you don't have your privacy. If you are cooking and somebody also wants to cook, you know, it's always a bit of a struggle, you know, if you are used to, I mean, being on your own back home and all that. Sometimes you also have to share a fridge, so you have like different compartments in one big fridge where you have to keep your stuff. So if you've got plenty of stuff, you will not even have enough room and all that. But it's all good, I mean, to start off from there, and then once you know that you are earning enough to get you a whole flat to yourself, then you can go ahead. I used to live, like I said, in a house with 5 people, and I was paying £620. That's inclusive of all bills. So afterwards, I wasn't paying anything else, and my salary was around 1,500. So paying 620 out of 1,500, at least I was level about £880. So that would actually, I could save some from that, and then you just spend the rest as and when needed. So you have to consider how much you are paid, and then you can set a budget depending on what type of accommodation you're looking for. So one advice I would also give is, as you search on the internet, you may only see the pictures, but you have to go and have a look at it for yourself, because you could see something different from what you saw on the internet. So that is one tip you have to bear in mind, so that you don't just go ahead and make payment for something you've actually not seen. And so the next thing you need to consider is where exactly you want to live, whether you want to live close to the town center or a bit further away. That's a personal preference. I would always want to live close to the town center, where you can easily walk to the shops, you know, to get anything that you want, instead of having to travel back and forth all the time when you need to buy something. So currently I'm living in, like, on the high street, so everything is just around the corner. Everything is just within walking distance. So it's very, very good for me. All the big supermarkets, they are all within walking distance. If I'm hungry, I need to get something from McDonald's, it's just like a minute or two walk from my house. So at least it's easier for me. And I can also walk to work if I want. Although it's like 20 minutes walk, it's fine for me. If I wake up early enough and I think I can walk, I'm able to walk. So consider where exactly you want to live. Some people would want to live further away from town center, you know, very, very quiet. It's fine. So you just have to know where exactly you want to live, so that when you are searching on the internet, at least you could actually take that into consideration. One thing you also need to consider is the contract that you need to sign. So some of the agencies might advertise that the minimum number of months you should spend in the house is like 3 months. Some would mention 6 months, others 1 year. So it all depends on the landlord or the landlady or the agency advertising the room or the flat. So sometimes some of them will tell you there's no minimum or no maximum, so you can move in and out anytime that you want. So I would advise personally to go in for a shorter contract, because if for some reasons you enter, if for instance, if it's a shared apartment, you enter the house and then you realize that you can't even cope with some of the tenants, you can easily move away. So if it's just a shorter contract, at least you can manage and endure for that. If for instance like 3 months, you can at least manage and endure for that 3 months, instead of signing on like a year contract or 6 months contracts, and then you kind of get stuck with people that you don't even click with. I mean, if you are friends, and if you are like 4 friends, you rent like 4-bedroom house together, at least that's different. But to rent a house with different tenants, you don't know, some of them can be so not so nice and all that. So if you end up with in a house like this, you will not even enjoy living in the country at all. So I would advise you to go in for shorter contracts, and if you think you are okay living there, then you can further extend it. The landlords or landladies or agencies are always in need of the money, so they will not kick you out if you are still interested in living there. So that's one thing to bear in mind. So one thing you also need to bear in mind is, if you end up signing on for 6 months contract or 1 year contract, and for some reasons you don't like the place and need to move, bear in mind that they don't really care so far as you sign for that 1 year. If you decide to move even after 6 months, legally you are expected to pay for the rest of the 6 months. So that is why I will stress on just signing on for a shorter contract if there is any, and then if you happen to like the place, you just extend your contract. So an important thing to consider when looking for accommodation is proximity to work. So you need to consider how far or how close this place will be from your place of work. Obviously the job you are coming to do is the most important thing, so you need to really focus on that. And the last thing you want is to start getting late to work. I bet you end up having problems with your matron, your manager, and even some of your work colleagues. So you need to really bear that in mind. If it's a walking distance, find out how long it's going to take you even to walk to work. If you need to take a bus, you need to know how many stops it will be from your place and how long it will take you on the bus to get there. So where I'm living currently is a walking distance. If I really want to walk, within 20-30 minutes I'll get to work. And mostly the shift do start quite early, around 7:30, or some even start as early as 7. So you need to consider the proximity so that you don't end up getting late to work all the time. And also when you close from work, you need to know how easy it will be for you to get back home, because the last thing you want is to spend like almost an hour in a train or on a bus just to get home after such a long day work. So just bear that in mind and get something that's very close. Wherever I've lived here in the UK, it's always been within walking distance. I don't drive, so I don't really want to have any issues. So even if I'm very late, I can get a taxi within 5 minutes. I'll be at work. So just bear that in mind so that you don't end up being late to work and start having problems with your managers and anybody at your workplace. So another thing you need to consider is sometimes when you see the apartment advertised on the internet, you need to make sure that they've stated whether bills are inclusive of the price they've mentioned or not, so that at least you know how much you have to budget for rent and bills, that is if bills are not inclusive. So currently I'm living in a flat which doesn't include bills, so I know how much I would have to spend on the rent and how much I'd have to spend on bills. So I take all that into consideration, consider my salary and if it's something I can afford. So that is what I'm currently doing. So just bear that in mind and make sure that if it's with bills, at least you know you pay your rent and that's it, you're not thinking of bills. And if it's without bills, know how much it's going to cost separately. You need to let the landlord or the agent state it for you, so that at least you can roughly budget how much you're going to spend on bills. The last thing I would like to mention, or the last tip I would like to share, is consider the means of transportation to work. I would always relate it to work because that's the main reason why, although our life here is not basically about the work, but you end up spending quite a lot of time at work. So consider the means of transportation, if either it's by train or by bus, or even if you can cycle to work. If you know how to ride a bicycle, you need to put all that into consideration. If it's a walking distance, you need to know how long it's going to take you. So if it's the bus, you need to know the time schedules, where to get the bus, which bus stop is closer to where you live, how far the bus stop is from your apartment or your flat. And sometimes most of the bus stops have the time schedule, so you can take a picture of it, keep it on your phone, so at least you know when to get what bus, and which will actually get you to work on time. And so there will also be another bus timetable schedule at your workplace, or wherever you get off. You need to have a picture of the timetable over there, so that at least you know how long it will take you to get back home. If it's a train, you need to know the train schedules as well, so that you always get the train or the bus or whatever it is that you need to commute to work to on time, just to save yourself the stress. So this is a quick and short video, and I believe you've definitely picked up something from it which will help you in your search for accommodation. So if you are in the process of searching for accommodation, I wish you all the best. And if you need any help at all, just comment in the comment under the video and I'm happy to share any advice with you. So keep sharing, subscribe and join the family, and see you in my next video. Bye.